SBCSS Digital Learning Services hosted a series of webinars based on ISTE's 5 competencies of digital citizenship. Each day of Digital Citizenship Week, we had a special guest presenter who was able to give us a deeper insight on each of those ISTE 5 competencies of digital citizenship. On Thursday, we talked about being alert with Michael Arrington from MEA EDU. Digital citizenship is 1 week, but digital citizenship is not to be confined to a week. So we have these resources available for you year-round and as you need them. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope that you enjoy. And our guest today, Michael E. Arrington, he was a featured guest on the Bits and Bytes podcast. We are going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Arrington to learn about being alert digital citizens. Welcome, Mr. Arrington.
Digital citizenship, we'll get right into it. Been doing digital citizenship presentations for about, I'd say 7 years or so now. And it seems to, every time I have to do it, I kind of have to reinvent it and kind of, bring in new things because things are ever changing in the digital world. So I try to stay updated and relevant. So here we go. Cyberbullying occurs when someone harasses, torments, threatens, humiliates someone else through the use of technology. This includes social media sites, email, instant messages, text messages, things of that nature. Like face-to-face bullying, cyberbullying can manifest itself in several different kinds of behaviors. And we'll get into that throughout the presentation. So there's different types of cyberbullying. Impersonation is probably one of the most common forms of like people making fake accounts and fake profiles and fake designs and try to impersonate the victim. I think the kids call them burner accounts, things like that. So something to be aware of, that they'll make a whole fake account to mimic someone else to, post derogatory or negative things. And then, so to continue with impersonation, it's one of the forms of impersonation is called fraping. It involves someone gaining unauthorized access of a victim's social media account, impersonating them, and posting inappropriate content. While some kids may think it's harmless to impersonate somebody online, it's damaging and a very, very real thing to damage somebody's reputation online, and it could be a criminal act. And so we try to remind kids that once something gets on the internet, it's almost impossible to control it. Everything that comes on the internet exists either through, electronic copies or screenshots and things of that nature. So these things they never go away. Like even like stories on Instagram, which only stay for 24 hours, or, a post on Snapchat, they could be screenshot and then shared and collected forever. You see that a lot with celebrities who have posted some derogatory comment years ago on Twitter, and somebody took a screenshot of it, and years later it comes to resurface. And so cyber stalking is when someone uses technologies to repeatedly harass, intimidate, threaten, different types of people, or people in particular. Cyber stalkers may keep tabs of their victims and make attempts to meet them. Many cases of cyber stalking involve adults grooming teenagers to have some type of sexual relationship. I know in my specific district, there was a 6th grade student last year who met a friend who they thought was a friend online and via a game, and the person wanted to meet up, and they actually came to the school, and it was an adult. And so it was a very, very scary thing. And so you have to kind of be aware of who your student is talking to online and being very careful about giving out locations and things of that nature. It's very, very serious. And then we have flaming. Excuse me. Flaming is when people post derogatory comments on someone's social media page, either through instant messenger or emails or chat rooms. I know chat room sounds like a very, very old statement, but like kids play games in different gaming sites, and they have chat rooms in that. So that's what like sites like Discord and Twitch are really for gamers, and everything is based on chat rooms. So generally this occurs during an online fight, and the communication is usually filled with anger and foul language. And you see a lot of that coming back to the school. Kids take screenshots and they show other kids, and then it just becomes a real big thing. So that's called flaming. And then outing. Outing is the type of cyberbullying involves sharing someone's private account or private information in order to publicly humiliate them. Outing can include posting photos, emails, text messages, or videos on the internet, or forwarding them to other people. In the school, in the K through 12 setting, you see a lot of people, or a lot of different schools have different people. Kids make different sites on Instagram called like whatever the school's name is, fights, and then they'll post the fights that happen on campus. And that can be very, very damaging to somebody's reputation. And then people get bullied from it. And then you have harassing. Harassing involves the constant of sending malicious, abusive, threatening messages to an individual or a group online. This can be done to the victims in public or private. Like these kids either text it, or they do it in a kind of a group chat setting, or on somebody's story on Instagram, or somebody's live. So it can be very, very abusive. And trolling, one of the oldest, what we call the granddaddy of cyberbullying techniques. It's a term almost as old as the internet. Trolling is a deliberate act provoking and a response through the use of some type of inflammatory statements, such as using insults, bad language in an online forum, or via text messages. I know these kids are really, really into group texts and group chats, and so they troll each other or whatever. But a lot of it started online on social media. And here's an example of what a trolling could look like. So somebody will post something on, let's say, Facebook or Instagram, and in the comment section, you'll see, oh, so great, we love it, amazing. And then somebody posts something derogatory. And then those types of people are constantly those in different posts that kind of go in the comment section and kind of just post derogatory stuff just for the sake of posting derogatory stuff. And so today's trolls live on social media. The goal generally for somebody trolling is to just make somebody angry, or to bully them, or to cyberbully them. They post something inappropriate, something embarrassing. But a lot of times, often it's done to make the troll feel better to make others upset. And so most trolls, they kind of just post things for their own attention and likes and things of that nature. So you get that a lot. Kids are masters at it. So it's something that needs to be kind of monitored when they're on social media sites. Trickery. So trickery is kind of like outing, but it involves revealing private information about another person. When someone engages in this type of cyberbullying, the person befriend someone and just to get their trust to be able to post something embarrassing about them. This goes on a lot. I know, especially at the middle school, it's a thing. These kids like, oh, let's be friends with Sarah so we can, make up some stuff about her online. And so then these people just kind of go and bully them. So this is called trickery. It happens a lot. And then catfishing, which is another old one. Catfishing is when someone pretends to be someone they are not, and sometimes assume another person's identity online, including the identity of the victim. They might do this to post inappropriate content, manipulate them, or hurt others' relationships of the victims online. If you see the picture to the right of the football player, his name is Manti Te'o. I'm not sure if you know the story of who he was. He was a linebacker at Notre Dame. He was in the running for the Heisman Trophy, which is the most prestigious award for a college athlete. He met who he thought was a girl online, and they had this whirlwind romance online. And because he was on the news constantly because he was a Heisman hopeful, he spoke of her often. And then this person supposedly had died. And then, long story short, come to find out, it wasn't even a girl. It was a friend of a friend who liked him. And it turned out to be very, very embarrassing for him. It cost him his stock in the draft. In NFL, his NFL career was very short. There's a documentary on Netflix if you want to see it, so you can kind of get the gist of what catfish really looks like. And it's very, very mind-blowing how some of these things kind of get out of hand with somebody pretending to be someone else. And then denigration. Denigration occurs when someone posts rumors and gossip about others online. Cyberbullies use denigration in order to ruin the target's relationship or reputation. This is very, very popular to like the age 5th grade to like 8th grade group. They do want to just post all this negative stuff about people that they don't like or people they were once friends with who are now friends with someone else. And so they post a lot of negative stuff for people online, or they make different sites or different pages to kind of mock and mimic different people. So this is another form of cyberbullying. It's called denigration. And then exclusion. This is very, very popular, I think, amongst all through K through 12. But exclusion is creating groups or events and excluding someone. This can also happen by not tagging someone in a photo and inviting them to an event, as well as excluding them from online conversations. So like I said, these kids have a lot of like different group chats. And so they may change the different people who are in the group chats and exclude certain people and say negative things about them. And it kind of gets out of hand when kids start to take screenshots and send them to friends, and it starts to kind of get out of hand. But exclusion is a very, very big thing. These kids take likes of photos or likes of posts online very, very serious. So when they're excluded from these types of things, they get these different types of behaviors. They feel some kind of way, and it's kind of a form of bullying. And so the effects of cyberbullying, being a victim of any kind of bullying, is already a stressful experience. But when the internet is involved, it's kind of a 24/7, 7 days a week, nonstop thing. And I know for the older people in the room, we kind of feel like, well, just don't log on or don't engage. But this is kind of a form of communication for today's kids. This is how they communicate. They communicate via social media or Instagram, or I know during a lot like the pandemic, a lot of kids who didn't get to see people at school and didn't have their Instagram account weren't able to communicate with some of their friends. These kids don't use the cell phone to call people like we used to. They want to get in people's Instagrams or Snapchat or whatever the latest social media things. TikTok is the thing now. So these kids actually have full-on conversations on TikTok. So some of the effects could be, the victims get bullied, they spend a lot of time online and get subjected to this stuff kind of around the clock. So it's kind of a very, very serious thing to monitor. And in addition, some of the effects of it is permanent because it's stressful for cyberbullies, to people who get cyberbullied. And when it stems over to school, it gets really, really stressful. And so in these instances, victims feel more powerless since it's very easy to disseminate information online and very hard to retrieve it. I know, like in particular, my schools, we have a running dialogue with Instagram and TikTok to get stuff removed when stuff gets so inflammatory that it needs to be removed. And that process can either be very, very quick, or it can be a very, very long, tedious process. So it's very hard to retrieve stuff and remove stuff to get it offline. A cyberbully may use the internet or cell phones as their weapon of choice to bully, and the bullies can spill over into harmful behavior at schools, which is what we don't want. We want to kind of keep this stuff online as much as possible, but it always spills over to schools. And so then there have to be certain parameters and boundaries that we create at school to deal with stuff that goes on online. And as a result of this relentless nature of cyberbullying, there can be a lot of negative effects that students can experience. And this includes, but not limited to, anxiety, depression, decrease in academic performance, feelings of isolation, changes in eating and sleeping habits, lower self-esteem, increases in school absences, loss of interest in hobbies and activities, the use of alcohol and drugs, withdrawing from family and friends, and lack of motivation. You see that a lot in kids, especially at the high school, is this lack of motivation, kind of just not wanting to do too much of anything. And it's a weird time post-COVID to kind of see what some of these effects are. We don't even have all the data in the things that happened during COVID. So this cyberbullying has been a very, very serious thing, and it spills over in academics and it spills over in behaviors as well. Sexting is very, very serious amongst our kids in the K through 12 system. Sexting is when minors take nude or partially nude pictures or videos, images of themselves or others with cell phones, webcams, and share them through text messages, email, social media posts, or other similar methods of internet distribution. So there's some myths about sexting and cyberbullying. A lot of kids think that it's harmless fun between friends. It's okay to take pictures of yourself. They think it's okay if you're dating, or it's okay if you're only 16. It's just a prank and you can't go to jail. Like I said, all of these are myths. So the truths about cyberbullying and sexting: once you hit send, you can never retrieve an image that's sent. Everything that you do on internet is written in pen, not pencil. So there is no erasing it. There's no, let me take that down. Somebody took a screenshot of it and somebody disseminated it there, and it gets really, really contentious. Even if you take a picture of yourself, if you send that image to a person, it could be a crime. And there is no exception for dating situations in the law, right? So in the law, there is no differentiation of what dating is. You sent it, you sent it. And in sending, saving, or requesting sexual images of underage persons is a crime. Criminal penalties can be a result of child pornography. I can't stress that enough. So the California law on sexting said it is illegal in California to produce, possess, and distribute obscene matter of a child under the age of 18, and that's Penal Code section 311.1, 311.2, and 311.3. The violation of this law applies to any obscene image of a child, whether it's a hard copy or electronic image. When a text message depicts obscene images of a minor under the age of 18, the person who takes the photo, sends it as a text, or just simply possesses the text can be prosecuted under the child pornography statute. The law applies to minors as well as adults. I think that's something that needs to be expressed, is that it can apply for adults as well as kids. So what happens after you hit send? I usually tell my students in my schools that, you're one text away from having your life trajectory altered because you committed a criminal act. So it may impact your college admissions. It may impact, a job interview, security clearances. Like, it could be very, very detrimental. And I'll get into what some of those things look like in a couple of case studies towards the end. So the penalties for sexting: persuade, engage, fund, or produce inappropriate pictures could be up to a 20-year felony and up to a $100,000 fine. Distribute, finance distribution, or promote distribution, which essentially is sending an inappropriate picture, is up to 7 years as a felony and up to a $50,000 fine. Possession, having an inappropriate picture, is up to 4 years of felony and up to a $10,000 fine. So it's very, very serious how these things go about. Like, you're one text away from this being your fate. So the California law on cyberbullying, which is kind of different than the sexting. So under the California law, an electronic act is a communication which includes messages, text messages, sounds, social media posts, created, transmitted by the means of electronic device. That's meaning like cell phones and computers. The Penal Code section 653.2 A, B, C, and 1 and 2 coincide with our California Ed Code 48900. As of January 1st, 2017, an electronic act includes the act of cyber sexual bullying, which includes a photograph or other visual recordings that show an identifiable minor in a nude, semi-nude, or sexually explicit manner. Students who have been found to have committed such an act may be suspended or recommended for expulsion. And this is under the 48900 under Ed Code, and it's also part of Assembly Bill 2536. It's in the law. So under the California Safe Place Learn Act, schools in the state must adopt policies and procedures to prevent and address student-on-student harassment, intimidation, or bullying based on actual perceived characteristics of the victim student. So that is in Ed Code Section 234. Schools within the University of California system are also required to establish anti-bullying policies and procedures, part of California Ed Code 66302. Just so that's clear. And then also under these policies, under the California law, schools must develop and post that they set out a process for students and others to report bullying. They set out the process of investigating such reports, require school employees to intervene and stop incidents of suspected bullying, and establish an appeal process for a student to follow to challenge a finding of bullying and prohibit retaliation against anyone who reports suspected bullying. Ed Code 234.1 along with 66302. Under these policies, harassment, intimidation, and or bullying are grounds for suspension or expulsion per our Ed Code 48900, as I mentioned before. Schools are further required to make information available on California Healthy Kids Resource Center. If you want to, I can send you that link, Jessica. You can put it in the chat or put it a part of the resources. And it's a site that other appropriate departments need to just kind of know what this bullying thing looks like, how we collect data, and that's through Ed Code 234.2. And then the penalties for cyberbullying, the use of telecommunications service provider to terrorize, intimidate, threaten, harass, molest, or annoy any other person, disturbing the peace and quiet of another person by any of the following: that's threatening physical harm or damage, false reporting of a person's injury, illness, or death, using vulgar, indecent, obscene, or offensive language, or suggesting lewd acts, initiating contact and hanging up after it is answered, and causing interruption in telecommunication service. So those last two are kind of older, right? When people used to call you and hang up, right? That's considered harassment and bullying at this point. It's kind of all thrown in there. And the penalty for these types of acts is a 6 months in jail or up to $1,000 fine, or both. In Clearfield County, there's a 15-year-old girl who sent a nude photo of herself via phone. She was charged with manufacturing, possessing, and distribution of child pornography. She sent the photos with her cell phone to a 27-year-old man she met on Instagram in June of 2017. The man was also charged with unlawful sexual activity. And like these things happen all the time, unfortunately. And so I wanted to kind of highlight a couple of these case studies just to kind of give you some context of how the seriousness of what cyberbullying and sexting and all that type of stuff, what it goes into. So case study, as you see, this young lady right here, her name is Hope Witzel. In 2019, she was 13. She was a typical preteen. She liked posters in her room and hanging out with her friends, and she's in a social club and she's with her family or her mom. And some boy convinced her to send her some topless photos, and the pictures circulated through school. The school's officials found out and notified the parents. At first, she was suspended, and she was removed from the school leadership and all the school clubs. And then she got bullied, and then she got harassed. And then on her 14th birthday, she committed suicide. She just couldn't take what the consequences were and the bullying, the constant bullying that happened after this. She sent those photos out. It was embarrassing for her to have everybody in the school kind of see her in that light, and it was too much for her to take. So this is why it's very, very important that we kind of get this information out there so that parents and students can be aware of the severity of these types of things. And so another case review in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. These three teenage girls, they sent these nude photos to three young men. The photos went around to the school. I think the principal found out through something else happened, and the phone was confiscated, and on said phone was these photos. And so all 6 of these students were convicted and now have to register under the under the Pennsylvania law as sex offenders for 10 years. So for 10 years, they can't work around children. They can't be around children without some level of supervision. And so, like I said, these are the things that are really, really serious when it comes to some of these sexting and cyberbullying type stuff, sexual images and things of that nature. And then we have another student. His name was Phil Alpert. As you see right here in the caption, it said it was a stupid thing I did because I was upset and tired, and it was the middle of the night, and I was an immature kid. You'll find me in the sex registry list next to people who have raped children and molested kids, things like that, because I sent out child pornography. Right. He had just turned 18. He was in a relationship with his girlfriend for 2 years. They broke up. He sent a sex to her family and all of her friends. And it just went haywire. He was arrested, had to register as a sex offender. And like I said, these things get very, very serious. Very, very serious. So next I have a video that I wanted to show just to kind of highlight kind of comedically what this looks like. Lastly, I wanted to get into just the negative things that happen on TikTok. I know TikTok is the kind of the newest, latest, hottest thing that kids are using. So there's some privacy concerns, just like any social media site. There's some privacy issues that go along with it. At like most social media sites, there's those things that when you say allow, what you're allowing your phone to have access to. So those things are to be concerned about. There's time management issues. You have excessive screen time that do impede academic progress and social development, depending on the age group. So encourage some kind of balance and some boundary setting when using TikTok. I know TikTok is one of those things where there's constant videos is going, so you can scroll until your fingers fall off. So, you have to kind of balance what that looks like. And then the cyberbullying awareness, kind of what this whole presentation was about. Just like any social media platform, TikTok is not immune to cyberbullying and open conversations. So you have to be aware of that. Despite everything that TikTok is trying to do, it's kind of hard to stop inappropriate content from filtering through. So, you may be scrolling and looking at recipes, and then next thing you know, you might see a car crash that may be inappropriate for a child to visit or to visualize. And then digital literacy, which is important. It's one of those things that the internet, people just put information on the internet. Not a lot of it is true. So you have to be aware of what that looks like. So you want to empower students with the skills to discern credible information and credible sources. Those who are us in higher ed knows everything about referencing and plagiarism checkers and things of that nature, and kind of just cross-referencing information just to make sure that it's true. So those are some of the things that we really, really need to worry about.
Well, first of all, thank you for all of that information and showing us how it fits into ed code as well. So taking the law and taking ed code and combining it, and really eye-opening case studies as well that you presented us with. And I think that some kids, they think it's a joke, or they think it's funny, or they think it's cool, and they don't realize that there are consequences. They don't realize at all that this is a crime, that this is not okay, and that they may have to register as a sex offender. They may get a misdemeanor. There may be a financial implication. And
Right.
So I really appreciate you kind of breaking this down and showing us in a way that's understandable what this really means. So
yeah, I think it's imperative that like parents are aware and kind of have these courageous conversations with the children about the severity of what can happen from what was considered a prank, and about making choices and even being involved with people who are doing this and getting your name attached to it just because you're, kind of involved by proxy. So, hopefully the people that are, that watch this and get a chance to kind of spread this information out to teachers, parents, and students to to really be aware of the dangers of the other side of what social media and digital citizenship looks like.
With your knowledge of law enforcement, and then also with the educational system, is it up to the target or the victim to press charges? Is that something that makes it go to the next level, or is
well,
it
if it happens, if it happens at home, the victim should definitely contact law enforcement. If it happens or it spills over in the school school has an obligation to contact law enforcement. Like, that's the first contact we make. And depending if it's sexual in nature, then we have to do a CPS report as mandated reporters. So, but when it comes to like cyber bullying and those types of things, those things should be dealt with law enforcement. And law enforcement has different sections of their department that is just focused on online stuff. So it's called cyber crimes, or the cyber crime unit, that just kind of just deal with social media and posts and texts and things all day. It's a dopamine rush for kids though. They get, the more likes they get, the more they feel good. You know, kids will send out 10 texts to 10 friends to see who responds. And if they get 7 out of 10, they feel bad because they didn't get 10 out of 10. So it's hard to say, man. It's a very, very slippery slope when it comes to legislating digital stuff. I think things are still in the know and in the make. And you know, the more things happen, the more things adjust, and we try to adjust accordingly. And you know, society is a little slower than the digitized world that we have now.
I did put a link in the chat for the podcast that we recorded with Mr. Arrington. So there is more information there, because I feel like we can continue to discuss this topic. It's so important and it's so relevant. And I really appreciate your perspective that you're bringing from education as well as law enforcement. And so in addition to all of those hats that you wear, Mr. Arrington is also an author. So we are going to be raffling off his book, Brave Little Me. I put my email address in the chat. If you would please send me an email with a mailing address, we'll get that book out to you. So jessica.boucher@SBCSS, and we'll go ahead and send you a copy of Mr. Arrington's book, Brave Little Me. And can you go ahead and tell us real quick what Brave Little Me is all about and maybe what inspired you?
So Brave Little Me is a book about a character named Me who learns how to ask for help, learns how to just be brave on his journey through trying to figure out who they are, you know, and it's social emotional learning based. I do a lot of social emotional learning, skill building type exercises for students in the K through 12. So I thought the best way I can do it on a global scale is to write a book. So I wrote a book about a courageous young person trying to figure out who they were and what they were good at and being courageous about it. And the illustrations are great. The material is great. A lot of school districts have already kind of, you know, made it a part of their curriculum. So I'm very, very proud of that. And so, yeah, I hope you guys that, you know, win the book, enjoy it, and let me know what you think about it.
So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Mr. Arrington. I learned so much. We will have the link to the presentation in the Wakelet, and you did get the link to the slides that have the Wakelet QR code and Wakelet link. And we will see you guys tomorrow for our last day of Digital Citizenship Week, where we will talk about engaged digital citizenship with Ann Cosma. Have a great night, everybody. Bye.
Thank you so much.